Perfect. And now I'm going to start sharing my screen again.
Good.
Perfect. This looks a lot more normal now. Amazing. Okay. So the first question for today that we're going to be exploring is, I want to know if you happen to already know what a biome is. So again, if you need access to the link, I'm going to be posting it in the chat in a second. But this is a nice, simple yes/no question to get us started off with. If you know what a biome is. We have at least one no, so that's good. If you're able to give a little thumbs up in chat to show that you've answered as well, that would be greatly appreciated. Awesome. So I see about 3 of you have answered. I'll give it another minute to get everybody all settled and started. And again, I apologize if I do have to get up and grab some water. My mouth is hurting a bit today because I got my wisdom teeth removed. All right, so it seems like we have a few people answering. It seems like people know what a biome is, which is good. But we are going to explore a bit more about this today. It would be great if you also knew what some biomes were, because that's a little bit about what we're exploring today. So the first thing that I wanted to do is to explore a few different things. So the first component that I wanted to show you and explore was a fun little interactive that allows us to look at a few different biomes and what's going on. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm also going to share the link with you. And we're going to go over this as a group. So in the chat, you're going to be able to open this up on your own side. And then we're going to be going over it as a class as well. There's a few different ways that we're going to be doing this and exploring a few different biomes, but this is the first kind of step of this. So as you can see here, we've got some different biome names. We're going to be exploring some of these in more detail, but this is just a quick general that you can look on your own computer at with that link that I provided you. You can actually see all the different regions when you highlight on them and what different type of biome they are. When you check out down here, you can actually click on one of the specific little sections here, and it will give you a big explanation of what a specific biome is. Biomes are basically like the specific area that all have similar properties. So as you can see, everywhere that's, let's say, in this white area is going to be very cold. There's not going to be too much life around there. There's not going to be much like fauna or plant life, and there's also not going to be much animal life. So any of these components here are going to obviously be a lot different than something in, let's say, the rainforest, where there's going to be a lot of biodiversity, a lot of different animals, and a very warm temperature with a lot of rain. So we are able to classify different regions and different kind of animals and situations that these animals live in based on the concept of a biome, okay? And again, each different biome can be kind of distributed through a variety of different places. If you look up here, you can see that there's like this nice grassland section. There's both grassland in the US, in Canada, and all over different parts of the world. And all of these sections have a very, very similar climate, kind of animal and plant life, which makes everything really, really interesting. All right, so that's kind of the first little exploration we're going to do. The next one is we're going to actually do a little activity where we're going to build a biome. So I'm going to send another message in chat, and I'm going to go through this with you as a group, which should be a lot of fun. This is an activity that allows you to see a biome and actually kind of interact with it. I'm just going to pull up the link and send it to everybody, and then we'll go through it as a class. And here it is in the chat. And now I'm going to share my screen. And we should be able to see biomes. Okay, so if you're able to click the link that I provided, you're able to go along with me and actually see this and try to figure things out on your own before I actually answer with you. So once you open up your screen, you're going to have something that looks like this. Once you do that, you're going to be able to press the word next. Can I see some thumbs up if you're able to get to the same page that I am? Thumbs up so I can see that we're getting along together. Got 4 thumbs up, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 is good. Okay. So what we're going to do now is read through the first section, and then we're going to explore how to use this activity. So the first part is, just as I said before, a biome is a large region of the world with specific types of plants, animals, and climate patterns. And in Build a Biome, we're going to be building 6 of the world's different biomes. Can somebody send which one they think is the most interesting in chat right now? And that's going to be the first one we do. We have tundra, taiga, deciduous forest, tropical rainforest, grass savanna, and the desert. All right, so if nobody has any, oh, we've got a desert. So we're going to start with the desert, and then we'll do the deciduous forest. All right, so as you can see, we have lots of different regions of desert all around the world. And the desert is a barren region that has very, very little rain. There are many types of deserts, but they all share one category. And that's they have no more than 10 inches of rain a year, which means that the land is going to be extremely dry. Deserts are often home to a ton of different plants and animals, and over 1/5 of the world's desert. All right, so the first thing that you're going to do, so you're going to see this section here, and you're going to try to pick which plants you think are going to be in the desert. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to go through and try to click which ones of these sections you think are going to be in the hot and dry desert. And if you have any ideas, you can send a message in chat with which number you think it is. So we've got broadleaf trees, we've got some grasses and cacti, we've got wildflowers, moss, evergreen trees, and vines, and water tolerant trees. Any ideas on which plants would go in the desert? The cacti. So the cacti go in the desert, and then we can pick a few different animals, or one of the animals that would live in the desert. There are some that we can probably cross off, like the Arctic wolf, probably doesn't live in the desert, and probably not the caribou. Caribou lives in slightly colder locations. So this is one of the ways that we can go through each one. So we have our African elephant. It would not survive, unfortunately, because there's a lack of water. But what will survive is the snakes. So snakes are able to bury underground, and they're able to detect water at great distances, which is why they're so successful in the desert. All right, and finally, we have to pick the amount of rainfall each year. This one should be pretty straightforward. Exactly, so we've got a small amount of rain. And finally, we've got the seasons. So is it always the same each season? Is it wet and dry? Is there summer and winter? This one's a little bit harder. There are no seasons. Unfortunately for this one, it is not rainy all year. We're gonna try 3. Awesome. So in the desert, we have summer and winter, which is very hot summers and warm winters and cold nights all year. So I've never been in the desert during the nighttime, but I have seen a bunch of movies where they do say that a lot of wildlife comes out during the nighttime, which is something really, really interesting. All right, so we're gonna build the next biome, which is the forest. All right, so in terms of the trees, what type of tree do we think will be in the deciduous forest? Remember, we already know that there's not gonna be cacti, so it's gonna get easier and easier each time we do it. And it does say that they have trees. So we have the trees over here, which is what we're gonna have, these broadleaf trees. Next, we're going to go to which animals are in the deciduous forest. Remember that this is still a cold environment. I'm not sure if somebody said 1 for this one, but I'll click it for this one, which is the tawny owl. And these do live in Canada and places similar to that. I have seen these type of owls before. And how much rain do we get up in where I live? Moderate amounts. Amazing. All right. And do we have seasons? Is it nice and warm and cozy in the summer and then freezing in the winter? And again, this one's always the most difficult to guess. One thing that you can also do on your end is you can try before you send it to me. So once you figure out the right answer, you can also send your message in chat. All right. So if we're not sure, it's not this one. So we don't have mild or humid summers. Number 4, nice. So we have warm or hot summers, and we have very, very cold, snowy winters. Amazing. So we've only got a few left. We can go a little bit quicker on this one, I'm sure. So in the desert, where there are only kind of mosses, there's nothing else that really grows in the tundra. I mean, not the desert, in the tundra. So again, the tundra is way up north, very, very cold. We have the Arctic wolf. And I believe that there is, oh, no, small amount of rain for that one. And we're going to have short, cool, or warm summers and extremely cool winters for that one. And what I'd like you to do is feel free to continue trying to explore some of the different biomes and trying to build your own. But we're going to do one last one here where we have the grass savanna. So for the grass savanna, we're only going to have things like wildflowers and tall grasses. Any ideas of what animal we're going to have in the grass savanna? This was one we already tried to pick before. The elephant. Elephants love to live in the grass savanna. And finally, how much rain? Remember that the savanna can't actually grow too much wildlife because of the amount of rain. So we are going to assume that it's going to be a little bit drier. So small to moderate, yeah. And finally, in terms of seasons, how are we for the grass savanna? I'll click off one that we know isn't right. So we know that it's not going to be really, really cold. Wet and dry. Awesome. As you can see, we now have that one, and we've only got 2 left. And remember that the last 2 that we're going to have only have a few different choices left. So the one that is going to have the most amount of flora and plant life is going to be the tropical rainforest. Do we have any ideas who lives in the rainforest? We know it's not the African elephant or the Arctic wolf or the rattlesnake or the tawny owl. So do we think the gorilla or the caribou? The gorilla. Awesome. And in terms of how much rain do you think is in the rainforest? Kind of has it in the name. A large amount. It's the rainforest, right? All right. And how about the seasons? Remember, it is going to be hot. It is going to be humid. There's going to be, there's almost no cold in the rainforest. And there's no seasons. All right. The final one. We also call these the coniferous forests. And these are like the big ones that we have a little bit north of where I am. And these type of forests have lots and lots of pine trees. So we only have one left. So we're going to go for the evergreen trees, which are these big pine trees. If you ever touch one, you're going to have this weird sap come off on your fingers. And these actually prevent them during the winter. So even if it's winter, you're going to see all of this. Sometimes people call these Christmas trees as well. All right, we have our last animal, if you know which one that is. Who's left? 3. The caribou. Caribous are pretty big. They're not moose big. And how much rain do we have? Amazing. And finally, how about the seasons? We know that we've already done this one and this one. So which ones in the middle do we have or haven't done yet? 5. Awesome. So mild or warm, humid summers and very cold, snowy winters. And that's that. You finished all of the different biomes. So again, there are lots of different biomes that we can explore, and we're going to explore a few others in a second. Hopefully that was interesting. And feel free to go through all of these on your own as well to explore a little bit more. But I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to jump right back into the presentation. Okay, so we've already built a biome. I wanted to do that with all of you together instead of in small groups. And one of the things that is also interesting is we have a few other links that I wanted to share that you will be able to explore. And I'll send these to in chat to explore a few different biomes. Let's make sure I send this to everybody and not just the one person. There we go. So hopefully that sends you both links. It might be a little bit hard to separate them. That one hopefully is a bit better. But each one of the links represents a different website that explores a few different biomes. I'm going to open that up for you so you can see exactly what these are as well. I found all of these websites really, really interesting, and they all explore some of the ideas of biomes and what the different biomes are. So in terms of the first link that I shared with you, this actually goes over all of the different kind of big biomes. So this is the coniferous forest, which I was talking about before. So a lot of the time biomes have similar or different names, but they do represent the same exact kind of region. So we have the coniferous forest over here, and this gives a little bit more detail about what that is. You can see some of the locations and some of the data. I'm not sure if you've ever read a climograph before, but this is basically a graph that explores the different way or the different types of precipitation and temperature. So as you can see here, the temperature goes up all the way until summer. So you can see this is June, July, and then it decreases all the way to December, which is winter. And this is the temperature. The other thing that we also look at is precipitation. Oftentimes when you're reading a climograph, it actually has precipitation on the same graph. And I'm actually going to show you how to do that right now as well. So we have our precipitation graph on the side. And usually precipitation is shown as a bar graph. So on this side, we're actually going to have our lines. So we have 0, and this is going to be 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140. Does this make sense so far? Thumbs up if that makes sense. So we're just putting a number here. I know my drawing pen is a little bit fat right now. And all we're going to do is we're going to add a bar for each one of these representing the section here. So we're going to go right between here for our first mark. And then for February, we're going to go here. And then March, we're going to go here. April, we're going to go all the way down to here. And we're going to go up. And then we're going to go all the way up to 60. I think this one was a little high. This one actually goes to 2. And we're going to go up to 3 for 60. And we're going to go just a little bit above 60. And we're going to go for April, just a little bit lower. And a little bit lower. And now we're going to get back to 2. So as you can see, when you have both on the same graph, you can actually have a better idea of what's going on. So it's a little bit less rainy, and it's also colder during the winter months. And then in the summer months, not only does it rain more or precipitate more, but the temperature is also higher. So that's one of the ways to read a climograph, with 2 different aspects, and also including both temperature and also precipitation. Does this make sense? Any questions on the climographs with both types of data shown on them? Thumbs up if that made sense, or send a question in chat if you have any questions. Awesome. Okay. So we'll go to the next one. So then we have the desert, which we also explored. And again, you can read a little bit more if you're interested about the different types of biome. Again, we got the types of vegetation. There's very little rain, and it's often very, very hot. You can see that in the climograph here, there's a fair amount of rain during the winter months. And then there's almost no rain during the summer months. So it's even more important for these animals to really, really hide and figure out a way to get water and other nutrients. And that's one of the reasons why cacti are so great, is because they're actually able to store the water inside of them, and animals are able to suck out that water to stay alive. But the issue is cactuses want to make sure that they keep their own water because they want to have water. So they develop all these little spines so that animals can't eat them, because they're basically the only source of water. We have grasslands, which are big, big areas with lots of grass. One of the coolest things about grasslands as well is they're often really, really dry. And then every now and then there's a big amount of water. And then all of the grass grows really, really tall. If you ever get a chance to look over the Planet Earth documentary, there's a great section on grasslands where you can actually learn a ton about this, which I found really interesting. This is another kind of graph where you're seeing a little bit of an uptick in a specific month. So this one's starting at the beginning of spring. After spring, we're going to go down and we're going to have a little bit more rain again in the fall, but there's not very much rain in the summer, and there's a little bit less rain in the winter. And our temperature is fairly stable, but it does go fairly cold during the winter. The rainforest is always going to be warm. It's absolutely beautiful in the rainforest. And as you can see, it's always warm. So it's always about 25 degrees Celsius every day, all the time. And they do have peaks and valleys in terms of the rain, but the rain gets a little bit less. And we do have nice big peaks of rain. This is a ton of rain if we compare this to the desert, because not only is that like it's higher on the graph, but the actual numbers here are different. So you can see that the highest is 60. And then if we go to the rainforest, this doesn't go up by the same numbers. 60, which was the highest, is over here. So on the most rainy day in those type of climates, that's actually the least amount of rain you're going to get in the rainforest. And this is significantly more, because this is at 250 millimeters. Shrublands are similar to the deciduous forest that I was talking about. And we can see where they are kind of on the map. And this is all fairly warm. It does definitely get a little bit colder in the during the summer kind of months, that June, July. So it's kind of the inverse. And then as you can see here, there's a little bit less rain during that time as well. We've only got a few left. So we've got the temperate deciduous forest. And this is where it's kind of the opposite of that kind of background. So we have a warmer summer, we have cooler winters. You can see a big drop here. And the rain, although it seems to go up and down, it's fairly consistent. It doesn't have such a big range as the other places. And during the winter, there is a little bit less, but that's mainly because of the type of precipitation that's coming down. Generally, when you have snow, there's going to be a little bit less precipitation. And finally, we have the tundra, which is very, very cold, and there's not very much going on. And as you see, there's almost no precipitation. So from January all the way to April, there's basically zero. You can see a big jump in the graph here, but that's because it's so cold. It gets to -40. I'm not sure if you've been out in -40, but when it's that cold, my eyelashes start to freeze. And you go outside, and then sometimes your eyes get stuck. So then you have to like take off your mittens and like rub your eyes so that your eyelashes defreeze, which is a lot of not fun. So I don't recommend going outside when it's -40. But unfortunately, that is the life for sometimes when you're in a cold country. So hopefully that was a good kind of summary of a few different biomes and what they are and where we are. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. We're going to do another little poll once I present. Amazing. All right, so you should have the link still in chat. So do you know any Canadian biomes? And if so, write their names. We went over multiple different biomes. You do also have the links that I sent you. So if you'd like to cheat, it's not actually cheating, it's research. While this is going on, I'm just going to refill my water. Again, I apologize for needing to, but I will be right back. Amazing. So far we have the tundra and the desert. We've got the beautiful grasslands out in Alberta and Manitoba, the tundra up in Nunavut and the territories. We've got the desert also probably in lower US, not so much the desert. We don't really have deserts here. Maybe lower Alberta. Few different types of forests, definitely. Amazing. Temperate deciduous forest, awesome. Lots of forests. So we've got forest, we've got tundra, we've got taiga, we've got desert. Awesome. Seems like everybody loves the tundra. You know, the tundra is great. The tundra is very pretty. It takes wonderful pictures. I actually like the tundra so much as well in terms of teaching that my story at the end of the lesson is about an animal in the tundra. So that was fun. All right, so great job. I'm just going to quickly go over and show you a few different areas in Canada specifically, just so you know the specific names for different parts. And there are additional biomes in Canada that are very, very specific to Canada. So the first section, we were talking about biomes all around the world, but now we're talking about those that are actually in Canada. All right, so the tundra biome. And if you can see on this, we actually have a wonderful section of purple up here, and everything in purple is tundra. Fun fact, I actually went where I made that little red dot, and that was one of my first times to ever go up north. It was very cold. I think it was between -25 and -50 when I went. So it was extremely cold. The next component that we're looking at, so we know that we have the tundra. The next biome in Canada, we also have a little bit of a description. So these are some of the things about the tundra that I thought were interesting. So again, low diversity. Diversity means how many different plants and animals live there. We almost have no growing season there. The only thing you're going to grow is a few trees and some moss. Plants that do grow really, really quickly and go to flower almost immediately. And then once they've kind of propagated and are able to go underneath and kind of hide during the winter, if you will, they're able to do so. I'm not sure if you know what permafrost is. I'm not sure if you have permafrost. But basically, it's like all of the ground becomes frozen underneath. So in the tundra and definitely during in northern Ontario, there's a lot of permafrost, and you can even get a little bit in southern Ontario during the winter seasons. All right, the boreal forest is also known as the deciduous forest, or sorry, not the deciduous forest, but the taiga. And this is a big, big, big area in Canada. This is one of the biggest regions, and we like to call it the boreal forest for us. These are the forests with big, big trees. There's no permafrost really. The weather changes a lot, and the soil is a little bit acidic, which is kind of interesting. The next one, which is also very specific to Canada, is the mountain forest biome. So I'm not sure if you know about this, but we have huge mountains out on this section of Canada. And these mountains, a lot of people love to ski in, but they also create specific climates. What happens is a lot of the air and a lot of different kind of weather systems get caught up in the mountains and they can't actually go over. So this creates a specific kind of environment close to the mountain where certain temperatures can't actually leave from the ocean. So temperatures will vary with elevation, which is how high up. There's nice cool summers and it's very windy because of this. And there's also a lot of precipitation on the windward side of the mountain. So as I said, the two different sides of the mountain are very different. Sometimes it goes so far as you can be on one side of the mountain and it feels almost like summer and you can go sunbathing. And the other side, it actually is winter and you can go skiing down the mountain. So that's really, really interesting for that. We have our grassland. This is where a lot of the farming in Canada happens. So a big chunk of Canada is in the middle section, and we call these the prairies. And the prairies are where the grassland biome is and where we do a lot of kind of our corn farming. So they're dry, hot, and there's a lot of fires during the summer seasons. And then during the winter, it gets really cold actually, which is an interesting kind of version of the classical grassland biome. The next one we have is the eastern deciduous forest, which is this tiny little section at the bottom, if you can see. So that tiny little brown bar there, and that's actually where most people in Ontario live. So almost all of Ontarians live in this tiny little brown section. That's where all of the big cities are, and that's where I live as well, fun fact. So there's tons of different trees, there's lots of animals, there's a really nice growing season, the soil is rich, and there's a lot of reasons why people like to live out here. Finally, we have the, and maybe not finally, but we do also have the Acadian forest biome. So the Acadian forest biome is interesting because this section of Canada over here is near the Maritimes, which is basically the ocean. There's lots of specific types of populations that live just over there. And there's also a bunch of smaller islands out in that section. So we have a lot of small provinces out in that side, and this is where the Acadian forest biome is. So there's lots of different trees in that area, and there's lots of different mammals and populations. Oops. So just to go over, we have the Pacific Coast Forest, which is on the other side of that mountain coast forest. We've got the Boreal Forest, which is the big region in Canada. We have the Eastern Mixed Forest, which I didn't go into too much, which is just on the northern part of the deciduous forest. This is basically kind of the border between the Boreal Forest and the deciduous forest. It often has a similar property to both. And there is a big section called the Canadian Shield, which is really mineral rich in that area. We have the Acadian Forest, which again is in the Maritime regions, which has a specific kind of pattern based on being on these kind of smaller islands and sections off Canada. We have the grassland, which is very warm, very cold, and great for growing crops. And finally, the tundra, which is not good for growing anything, and it's very cold, and very few people like to live out there because it's so hard to live. We do have a lot of Indigenous populations over there, and there is a lot of rich history. And it's all really interesting to explore and learn a little more about. All right, so I just want to make sure that we have written down all of the different Canadian biomes. Are there any that we haven't already written down? I think there might be a maximum on the amount. So if you can't put any more answers in the poll, you can put them in the chat as well. So there was a bunch of specific ones to Canada that we did also explore. Eastern deciduous forest, great. Boreal forest, that's the big one. Big boreal forest. Don't forget the mountains. We've got a few on the mountains. Mountain forest, boreal forest. So awesome work. I'm gonna just go back one more slide so we can just double check that we've seen everything. So again, we didn't get the Pacific Coast Forest. We did get the mountain, we got boreal. We've got the, I'll say the Eastern Mixed Forest is basically boreal versus the borderline between these two. We got the Acadian Forest, the grassland, and the tundra. So really great job. We've got a lot of the different biomes, which is super cool. Super cool. Whoop. All right. So what we're gonna do for the next little section, once I can actually click on the slide and go back to the slide where I want it to go on, this slide, let's go back one, can do it. Perhaps not. Okay, so I'm actually gonna stop sharing and then I will share the slide itself because it doesn't seem to want to share on big screen. So I'm going to share it on small screen. Hopefully this makes it share a little bit easier. It may be because I picked or decided to put a slide on another slide. So for the next part, what I would like you to do is I would like you to pick a biome and write down 3 key facts about that biome, and also include at least 3 animals that are native to that biome. You can use any of the different links that I've sent to help you with that. And we do have our poll already kind of started for this. So think about the name of the biome, think about 3 important things about that biome, and try to include at least 3 different animals. Try to think of using biomes that not necessarily everybody will do. And if you see one come up on the screen, try to pick another biome if possible. It'd be great to have a big range of biomes, not just the tundra and the boreal forest. All right, so think about which biome interests you. Write down a few key facts, and then we will start to show them. Also include 3 animals. So the way that you're going to do this is the name of the biome dash your 3 facts. They can be small facts, and then dash 3 names of animals that are native to that biome. For instance, if I was going to do the tundra, we've learned that the tundra has a very low temperature. So I would write low temperature. I would write low precipitation. And I would also write low biodiversity. So those are 3 facts about the tundra, and then 3 animals native to that biome. I could say something like the whale. So there's a variety of different whales that actually live up there. We have things, again, like the Arctic fox. We have seals. We have walruses. Lots of other fun cold animals. We've got polar bears. So any 3 animals that I decided would be the 3 that I would post in there. So it's a nice long sentence that you're writing, but we're going to go through them and explore some of the different answers that you have all come up with and explored during this time. If you're not sure about the animals, again, you can always use those links that you can find in chat to find a few different animals that include that. So 3 biomes, 1 biome, 3 facts, 3 animals. And I will go back to sharing a full screen. So hopefully you all have that. What I'm also going to do, just in case you can't remember what we're doing, is I'm also going to share it in chat. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in chat as well. Awesome. So we've got the rainforest remains warm all year, receives the most amount of rain out of all of the biomes, which it definitely does by a lot. There are tropical and temperate, and there are 2 types of rainforests. And a few of the different animals are gorilla, poison dart frog, and toucan. Poison dart frogs are super pretty. I'm not sure if you've ever seen a poison dart frog, but they are the most cute little bright colored frogs. Terribly poisonous though. Extremely poisonous. All right, we have the shrubland came up and disappeared. So somebody was almost done. I know this is a bit of a longer prompt, so there's no big rush. All right, so we've got our rainforest. It becomes a net carbon emitter, which I did not know. That's super interesting. Home to more than half of our planet's terrestrial animal species, which is really cool. And that's mainly because there are so many different types of very small animals, to the extent where we haven't actually researched all of the different animals in these regions. So there are still a bunch of species that are unnamed and not scientifically discovered. So if you want to find a species and name it, you can go to the rainforest still. There's a bunch of them. And there's a variety of different plants and things used in some of the world's most important medicines, which is true. There's a lot of really interesting plant life that comes out of the rainforest. And they also have some pretty cute animals. So the sloth, I actually have a giant sloth costume, which is one of my favorite. It's got these big long fingernails that are about this long. And sloth move so slowly that they actually have moss growing on them, which is kind of a funny thing. Pumas are absolutely beautiful large cats. And same with the ocelot. It's similar to a kind of house cat in some ways, but it's a lot more aggressive. It's very fast, and it jumps a lot. Ocelots are very active cats, I'll say. You can breed them in certain ways so that they're more of a house pet, but ocelots are really pretty. Whoops, that got very big. And again, the activity is just to pick a biome, write down 3 key facts about that biome, and include at least 3 different animals. If you're not sure about that, feel free to look over some of the links that I've sent in the chat previously, and I will also send them in the chat again. I want at least one more example, preferably not the rainforest again. All right. So we have the desert. There's a very small amount of rainfall to the point where there is 0 rainfall during some months. They have very, very hot summers and cold nights all year round. And they have things like rattlesnakes, they have camels and scorpions. We also have the grassland, and the grassland has high grass. It's often very dry, and they do have wet seasons. These wet seasons allow the grass to grow a lot and very, very quickly, which allows a variety of different animals to come in. In addition to that, there is sometimes moderate rainfall, which makes the grass a little bit less tall and quickly growing. There are a variety of different animals in the grasslands. We have the jaguar, the African elephant, and the African wild dog. All super cool. All right, let's go on to the tundra. So the tundra receives low amounts of precipitation, has almost no trees, and it's the coldest of the biomes. Animals found in the tundra include the musk ox, the Arctic hare, and the snowy owl. A lot of the times there's just a few animals that they put Arctic in the front, and then it becomes the Arctic tundra version of the animal. The next one up here, we have the temperate deciduous forest, located in the mid-latitude areas. The trees have adapted to the winter by going into a period of dormancy or sleep because it gets so cold, and the hot and summer cold winters are typical in this biome, and we have things like raccoons, bears, and wolves. And as I mentioned, we have all of those things where I am. Grassland, it's usually flat, which is true. If you ever go to the prairies, you can literally see so far away. It's incredible. I thought something was close one day when I was in the prairies, and I ended up walking for 2 hours and I didn't get there. It's really, really far sometimes, which is interesting until you have to walk. Grassland, so they're usually flat and have very fertile soil, which is why we grow a lot of our crops there. The fires in the prairies are really, really terrible sometimes, but they are often common. We do have fire warnings that say when the humidity in the air is really low, which increases the risk of fires. And it's also between a forest and a desert. So we have the sugar pronghorn tiger. Interesting. Coniferous forests have cold, long, snowy winters. Trees grow needles instead of leaves and cones instead of flowers. And there are things like reindeer, wolverines, and porcupines. Coniferous forests are a little bit north of where I am, but we definitely do have a lot of the similar properties around this area. Over here, we've got the desert, and it is the driest of all of the biomes. There is high temperature, large temperature differences between the day and the night, and animals are like rattlesnakes, fennec foxes, and sand cats. I'm not sure if you've ever seen a fennec fox, but fennec foxes have really, really big ears. They're like that. And the funnest thing about a fennec fox is you can actually get one and have one as a pet. There are specifically bred fennec foxes that live and are kind of created in a domestic way. All right, so thank you all for your answers. We're gonna head over to the next one. So my first question about the next part, where we're gonna start to go into the talks of Indigenous peoples in Canada, is do you know what this means? And do you know what the word or the letters FNMI stand for? Looks like we're pretty close. Half and half. A little bit more in the no. That's okay. We're gonna learn. We're gonna learn today. So in Canada, originally a lot of people call Indigenous peoples natives or native people to the land. But over time, these groups of people wanted to identify as a different kind of name that was more representative of who they are. So first we changed it to Indigenous people. So whoever was on the land before all the people from Europe and a variety of different countries came over and started settling all over the land. So in Canada, we actually had a really, really big population of Indigenous peoples. And when all the settlers came over, they brought so many diseases that they were not used to, that they killed a huge amount of the population, in addition to just starting wars and like actually killing them. So this is something that we as Canadians are aware of and need to also take into consideration. And one of the things that we like to do oftentimes is acknowledge the land that we're living on. So for example, I live in a place called Oshawa, which is close to Toronto. And the land, or the Indigenous peoples that are around this area, are from Scugog and the Mississaugas. If I was actually currently in Toronto, where I was a little while ago, they are from the area of Credit Union. So those are the two different kind of groups that I could talk about. I've also been in a few different regions in Canada that had different areas. So one of the things that we often like to do is say that I'm currently living on the land of the Scugog and the Mississaugas. And this is land that I've actually lived on that was previously taken from the Indigenous peoples. In terms of the kind of sentence FNMI, this just means First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people. So First Nations people are the biggest group of FNMI peoples, and they are most Indigenous peoples. Métis are kind of the French influenced Indigenous people. So oftentimes they have a French background as well. And Inuit people are the ones that live up north. And they have a lot of really, really interesting backgrounds in terms of where they live and the lifestyles that they have and how they're able to survive and thrive in such cold areas. You can imagine how hard it is to live when most of the time you're living in -20 to -60 weather. So imagine every day it being that cold. So it is a bit of a different lifestyle, but it's something that's really, really interesting. And a fun fact for all of us English learners, this is something that I learned, is you're actually allowed to use the word peoples. I know that that may sound a little funny, like people is already the plural, but when we're talking about Indigenous peoples, we're talking about groups of people. So when you say Indigenous peoples, peoples is the correct thing. And FNMI people have a rich history and also have their own ways of learning and understanding topics. And this is one of the things that we're going to explore a little bit more in detail now. So FNMI people have a variety of different ways of learning, and you're going to apply the knowledge that you've kind of gleaned throughout this section, and we're actually going to explore it in one of the methods that Indigenous peoples use. So first off, they use building on experience. So they take an experience that they have and then take the knowledge and then incorporate that into their own ideas. We've got storytelling, which is taking a variety of concepts and explaining them through a story to give a richer, more meaningful understanding. We've got community learning, so learning as a group rather than just individually, holistic learning. So learning in multiple different facets, so not just the content, but how does that connect to you either spiritually or emotionally or in a variety of different aspects. We also have learning through the land, which is really interesting. So imagine instead of going to your biology class and actually just looking and testing the pH of the soil in your area, you could actually use a bunch of different tests when you go into the land and actually explore different things and start to incorporate that into your learning. There's also the idea of using medical plants. So there's a variety of different plants that are used. And finally, song, dance, and ceremonies. So all of these ways can actually convey knowledge, and we're going to explore one of them today. So one of the other things that often happens is people have a really hard time using these ideas. So the first big problem for incorporating Indigenous ways of knowing is the Western way of knowing. So I say this in quotations because this is all about like how colonization happened, right? And how we deem certain knowledge as good and certain knowledge as bad or as less worthy. The next thing is in terms of residential schooling. So I'm not sure if you've heard about residential schooling at all, but basically a bunch of students who are very, very young, maybe your age, even younger, were either shipped off to live at a school for their entire life, some of them never going home to their parents as well. And in addition to that, some of them actually get kidnapped. So a helicopter flew down or something similar, or they came down around, not necessarily a helicopter, but somebody came down to the area where they were living on. And then they actually took away all the children from their parents. And then the parents never saw them again. And then they were put into these schools and tried to incorporate them back into society. Or if you've heard in the news, a lot of Indigenous people were found buried under these residential schools because they have died. So there's a big history of this in Canada. And this is one of the issues while we were growing up that is really, really negative. And something else interesting about this is not old. The last residential school was closed in the 90s. So think about how long ago the 90s was. That was only about 30 years ago. I believe the last one closed in 94 or 97. So that was before I was already born at that time, which is really crazy for me. I know you all are a little bit younger, obviously, than me, but it's something interesting to think about. In addition to that, we've got progressive educational styles and the concept of colonization. So there's a bunch of different benefits, though, even though we have some of these problems in terms of incorporating in the past. So you get connected a bit more to the content. You have holistic learning, which is learning through a variety of different methods. You've got the ability to learn as a group. You have a bit more emotional context to the learning that you're doing. And you also include more than just the concepts explored. So if we can, what is one of the examples of Indigenous ways of knowing that I just mentioned? I'll go back to the slide so you can quickly look it over one more time. So we have, these are the different ways. So we've got experience, storytelling, community learning, holistic learning, learning through the land, medicine, plants, song, dance, and ceremonies. There was also a few different examples on the previous slide that I explored. And unfortunately, I do have to be right back to grab myself some more water. Amazing. And you know, the funny thing is, it seems like people are enjoying the idea of storytelling. Storytelling is fun. Lots of storytelling. A little bit of song and dance. Da, da, da. Amazing. This is a beautiful word cloud. And one of the things that we're going to be exploring in addition to this is we're going to be doing our own. So I've got a few different examples that I'd like to show you and a few different components that I would like to go over. So a fun example of kind of Indigenous ways of knowing is this example that I found and I personally thought was really interesting. So I'm just going to read this for you and then I'll break it down a little bit more as well. So an elder from an Indigenous community says, I would like you to learn more about how the forest is alive. We will go into the forest for a day. And a boy says, okay. And then they both go into the forest for a day. And then the boy says, when will you tell me how the forest is alive? And then the elder says, I see you need more time in the forest. So this is an example because this boy isn't supposed to learn through kind of the elder telling him, but actually through experiencing it himself. So when he goes into the forest and he's able to see the wildlife around him, and he's able to actually see the ground. I'm not sure if you've ever been into a forest and actually dug down into the ground, but all of the roots in a lot of the trees are actually connected to each other. And all of the roots kind of build this root system that allow the roots of the different trees to actually share nutrients. This actually, in a lot of ways, makes the entire forest area feel more alive, in addition to sharing the health of things with different organisms like mushrooms or plants and animals, and all of these things kind of cycling together to create this living almost forest, which is something really interesting that we don't necessarily talk about in a lot of colonialized ways. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a little bit of our own storytelling. You will be just reading your story in small groups if possible. You can also write it down and post it in the chat. So I will be spreading you out into small groups eventually once I finish kind of explaining the example. So get ready for that. For this, you will be expected to either put your stories into the chat or read them as a group. If you're putting them in chat, I would love to see them as well. So if I jump in, feel free to throw them in. Also ask any of your classmates if you have any questions about this. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be building out a story that relates a variety of the concepts that we've explored today. Okay, so you can apply this storytelling in either a non-fictional or a fictional sense. It's up to you how you want to do this. The first thing that you want to do is determine what you want the focus of your story to be. After you've determined the focus, you're going to include these ideas throughout your story. After you've done this, you're going to connect all of these ideas to a story, and then we're going to see if we can share them. I'm sure your teachers would also like to see you explain these. So make sure you incorporate these specific ideas from at least one of the biomes that you've explored. So you've already written a few different facts, you've already written a few different components, and you've already written down a few different animals that you can explore this through. So as you've written down all of these ideas, incorporate these into your own sections of learning and then share them to the group. So before we jump in and create your biome story, I'm going to share a small one that I wrote. Yours can be longer. This is just a really, really mini one. And we're going to be talking about the tundra and the Arctic fox. So my story is about Holp, a small Arctic fox. And he is exploring the northern region of Nunavut. And Holp feels it's starting to get colder day by day, and he knows that winter is coming. The extreme cold pushes all of his friends away, and he needs to start storing up on food for the long winter. Holp knows how hard it is to catch his prey during the winter, so he begins to hunt and forage for food. Holp decides to try to catch a fish, and he sees the fish in the water. He waits patiently for the right time to pounce. He catches the large fish and brings it back to his den to eat. This is a good start for Holp, but he needs to eat a lot more before winter comes. So this is just a small story, and I'm going to quickly show you all the different components and how this relates back. So we have our Arctic fox, which is our animal. Potentially, I could have written down a few different friends. I could have explored this a little bit more, had some seals, had a polar bear, you know, maybe he ran away from there. We do also see a fish. So we've got at least 2-3 potential animals that could have been explored. We have a specific location. So we have the northern region of Nunavut. And we also know that it's starting to get colder because winter is coming. And we know how cold the winter is now. In addition to that, we know that cold pushes all of the different animals to hide away. In addition to that, most of the animals that are actually in these type of cold climates hibernate. Hibernation means that they kind of store up a lot of food and then they fall asleep for the winter. And that's also why we're talking about how hard it is to catch his prey during the winter. So during that time, he ends up going to sleep. Finally, he waits patiently for the right time to pounce. This is more of like a fun story element. And we also learn the type of food that Holp or the Arctic fox is able to eat, and then what he actually does with it and where he goes. So this also explores the idea that foxes live in dens underground and what they do before. Does anybody have any questions before we jump in and you start writing your own stories? Thumbs up if you understand what you're doing and everything makes sense and you know how to start. We got 1 thumbs up, got 6. So remember, you're writing your story down so that you can share it with the others in your group. I'm going to be breaking your group down, your groups all into sections soon. So make sure that you are at least sharing your voice with the group and let them know when you're all ready. Okay. What would be a great help for me is if, as teachers, just so I have you in specific areas, if you could put a little T beside your name, just so I can sort the groups successfully. While I'm waiting to sort the groups, you can all start to write your story. And I'll also, actually before that, I will stop sharing and send the information regarding what to do in the chat. So I'll send out the instructions before we break into our breakout rooms, so you all have it. Here we go. So make sure to copy that in case you forget. And I'm going to do some breakout rooms. There we go. So I think I have the teachers in rooms of 4. If you happen to be in a room with more than one person, let me know and I will move everybody over. But remember, for the last 15 minutes or so, you're writing your story and then you're making sure to post it in chat or to explain it to the fellow group members. There should be about 3 per group. And Justin, make sure to join the room. Hello, everyone. Can you give me a thumbs up if you know what you're doing and you've already started writing your stories? Awesome. So again, try to write your stories a little bit longer than I wrote mine. Try to add in a little bit more detail and lots of different components of the biome and the animals that you're exploring. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello. Can I see a thumbs up if everybody is doing the story and everything's going well? Awesome. Kai.
Hi, Kai.
Any questions? Awesome. Thank you so much. I will be back. Let me know if you have any other questions. Hello, everyone. Can I see a thumbs up if you've started? Awesome. Jane has started. Zoe and Vivi?
I don't know how to start a story.
Okay. Did you pick what biome and what animals?
You say pick the biome and animals?
Yeah, so the first step is to pick your biome. What biome do you want to write about?
Desert.
The desert? Awesome.
Yeah.
And what animal do you think is cool from the desert?
Maybe the snake or something. Yeah.
So pick a specific type of snake as well. So explore a few different snakes that live in the desert. Write down some of the ideas relating to the desert. So the fact that it's really, really hot during the day and cold during the night. And try to think about how you could turn that into a story. Think about name and all of those type of things. Does that help?
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I saw Jane put a thumbs up. How about Vivi?
I think now I know how to start now. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Good luck. Let me know if you need anything. Hello, everybody. Can I see a thumbs up if you know what you're doing and if you've already started? Amazing. Make sure to write a little bit more than I did and add a little bit more detail about your biomes. Try to make it as interesting as you can. Hello. Hopefully everybody is doing well. Can I see a thumbs up if you have already started and you're doing well? Awesome. Thank you, Angelina and Nina. How about Karen?
Oh, yes, I'm okay.
Okay, awesome. I'll be back in a little bit. Make sure to keep your stories about biomes interesting and you can make them a little bit longer than I did. Awesome. Hello, everybody. I'm gonna go down through the line and I just would love to see the first line. You can either say it to me or you can send it in chat for your story. Okay, I'm just gonna go alphabetically. So Ashley, would you be able to do that first?
Sorry, may I ask, is everyone have a story or a group have a story?
Each person has their own story.
Oh, we thought that a group only need
That's
to.
okay. That's okay. If you're doing it as a group, that's fine. Are you using like a Google Doc or how are you writing it together?
We haven't started actually.
Oh, well, if you haven't started, you can all write your own individual stories about the same idea. Have you picked a biome?
Rainforest.
The rainforest. Awesome. So again, there are so many different animals in the rainforest. You can even pick 4 different animals as a group and then write about the 4 different animals with different stories. Because if each one of you write a story, even if it has the same characters and the same background, all of the stories are going to be different. So why don't we pick 4 different animals from the rainforest? Ashley, do you have an animal?
Jaguar.
Jaguar, awesome. Debbie?
Oh.
A sloth.
Sloth. So we have jaguar, we have sloth, and you also have to come up with a name for them. We'll do that on the next round. Justin?
I think maybe apes.
How do you spell that?
APE.
Oh, apes. And Matthew?
Monkeys.
Monkeys. Okay. So Ashley, what would you like to name your jaguar?
Maybe Amy.
Amy. All right. Actually, you guys can pick your own name. So I'll leave these for you, but make sure that you tell everybody in your group the name of your animal. Okay. I don't want to have to force you to write their names in English. Okay. Does this make sense? So each one of you are writing a story with the 4 different animals inside of it. So you're writing a little story about a jaguar, a sloth, ape, and a monkey. I'll give you a short example. So the jaguar is running around trying to eat each of the different animals, and the monkey is being cheeky and potentially like causing some trouble. And the sloth is always just hiding, so the jaguar doesn't even notice him. And the ape is gonna start a fight with the jaguar. So that's kind of a different example of a kind of plot line, and then you can explore a bunch of different aspects in it. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you.
And you don't have to use the exact example I did, but awesome. Hello, everybody. Would I be able to hear the first line of your story? Or if you prefer, you can also send it in chat. I'm just going to go alphabetically. So Eric, would you be able to either read or tell me the first line of your story?
I'm still writing.
Have you written one line yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Kai, have you written at least one line of your story yet?
Yes.
Can you either read or send me it in the chat? And then I'll read it out. Kai, a cute sand cat living in a little cave is hunting for food in the desert today. That sounds like a really great story. Sounds like it would be fun and cute to read about. I'm imagining the little cat. Nice. Sean, would you be able to either read or send your line in chat? Sorry, I am watching some dogs today. Awesome. So the next story is there's a story about storyteller that the rabbits have 3 places to hide. So that's a little bit of the story. Interesting. I'm excited to learn a little bit more. All right, I'm going to go to the next room, but make sure you keep writing all your stories. Hello, everybody. Hopefully everything is going well and your stories are going along well. If possible, would you be able to send your first line of your story in chat, or you can read it out loud? I'm going to be going alphabetically just to see if everybody's doing okay. Jane, would you be able to share your story or sorry, the first line of your story with everybody in the group?
I'm not finished.
Yeah, have you finished the first line?
No.
Not yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. Well, try to make sure you're starting. Do you have an idea of what's going to be your story?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Vivi, how are you doing? Have you started? Do you have your first line for us to see?
I'm starting, but I'm just kind to put all of it, and I'm building the structure, so I haven't have the first line.
No worries. No worries.
But I can tell some details in it.
Yeah, that would be great.
I think I'm writing a story about a snowy owl, a snowy owl, in a taiga.
Yeah, nice, awesome.
Yeah.
What's he gonna do? Is he gonna hunt mice? Is he gonna fly around? What's his jam? Not
yes,
sure.
not sure.
Okay, no worries. Make sure to give him a name too. He's got to have a name.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. And Zoe, any ideas? Do you have a first line of your story?
I'm going to write like a the what is there? Mojave rattlesnakes, and it is going to hunt maybe like some small animals, like maybe mice or something in the desert. Yeah.
Awesome. Desert mice are really cool. If you ever get a chance to look up a picture of a desert mouse, they look a little different. Okay. It sounds great. Keep up the good work. Hello, everybody. I just want to check on how you're doing and how your first line of your story is going. Anna, would you be able to share your first line of your story in chat or read it out loud to me?
Hi. I just wrote one line.
Yeah, you can either throw the line in chat or you can read it out to us.
Oh, okay, I read it out.
Okay.
A tiny, lovely 3-month polar bear just woke up and was tucked in by his mother. And looking out of the cave, little bear tiptoed out of his mother's embrace and like being so curious about the outside world.
That's a really good start. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work and keep writing. All right. Anna, Joe, would you be able to send over a line or read it out loud for us?
Okay. And I will read it out loud. And poison dart frog, which is a beautiful, attractive, but dangerous animal, lives in rainforest. It lives range from Africa, Brazil, and Indonesia, and more. And the poison dart frog lives with lots of animals, such as its enemy, birds and snakes, which make its life full of challenges.
That's really, really good as well. Poison dart frogs are definitely really, really cool, and they're definitely very pretty animals.
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing, Anna. And Megan, do you have something that you can present to the group?
Hi. Okay. And a baby elephant just woke up and he is searching for his mom because he is very thirsty and wants to drink some water, but his mother is far away, so he has to find it by himself.
Awesome. Well, keep up the good work, everybody. Really, really nice. I like to see all the creativity. And keep writing. We'll be coming back as a group soon, okay? Hello, everybody. Would you be able to just quickly share the first line of your story or just a few quick words about your story? We're going to go alphabetically. So can we start with Angelina? You can also share it in chat if you're more comfortable, and I would be happy to read it for you. Oh, wow. Full story.
I haven't finished it.
Yeah, no, I was just looking for the first section. So Tom woke up in the region with mud all around him, and rotten smells keep filling into his nose, which make him feel like he's going to throw up. What? This is an awful situation, he thought, looking up to the sunlight filtered through the trees that all seemed taller and taller to reach the sky, and feeling frustrated to get away from here. That sounds really great. That's an awesome start. I want to make sure I get to everybody because we're at 8:30. So Karen, do you have a little bit of your story to share? Nina as well, if you can share a little bit of your story in chat. Unfortunately, we're going to have to go back to the main group in a minute. So if you're not able to share right now, I'm going to have to run out.
Yes, I shared it in the chat.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. So I am an Indigenous peoples. One day when I was trying to pick up some edible plants for my family, I heard a large noise. It sounded like a huge bird flapping in the sky. That's a really, really great start to your story. And I am super excited to read potentially a bit more and have you explore the entire thing. Nina, do you have anything to show us? Thank you so much, Karen. Yeah, your story is really, really great.
I haven't done yet, but I can put some of them.
That's okay. Keep thinking about it and writing it. I'm going to close all the rooms and I'm going to have a brief summary, okay? Oh, awesome. So Lily, a polar bear living in the tundra, having been looking for prey for 2 days, He is now hungry and tired, and there's no strength to keep him going. Awesome job. I will see you all back in the center room. Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Awesome. So hopefully you had a good time kind of exploring a different way of learning and expressing knowledge. I would love for you to keep writing your stories, and I would like it even more if you could potentially share those with your teachers. Some of your stories were really, really interesting and super fun. And it would be great if you could explore this a little bit more and really start to get into some of the characters that you've been building. But I had an awesome time. I had an even better time having you read your stories. So thank you so much for sharing that with me and your groups. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Storytelling. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.